Hey guys, so I just wanted to show you these photos of the new ballroom being built by Trump on the side of the White House. So it suddenly occurred to me about a day ago that what if the Antichrist himself wanted to build a temple? Because in the scripture, it obviously says that the Antichrist will sit himself in the temple and desecrate the temple. So suddenly it just occurred to me, well, what if the Antichrist actually built the temple? Because obviously he wants to sit in the temple and declare himself God. So it would make sense that he would build the temple for himself, right? People have been noticing that this building that Donald Trump is building is called a ballroom, which funnily enough sounds a lot like Baalroom, Baal room. Baal being the false deity that when the Israelites strayed from God, they used to worship a false god called Baal and make all kinds of witchcraft and sacrifices there to a false god, and do all kinds of weird things like sacrificing children and all that. So, interesting that it's called a ballroom, and it seems like it's a lot bigger than a normal ballroom. Also, people are noticing that it looks a lot like Third Temple plans. So here you can see plans for the ballroom. And here is a rendition of what the Third Temple, which is basically a copy of Solomon's Temple, would look like, as put in scripture. They both have two sections. I think one's an inner court and one's an outer court, and they both are rectangular shape, which is eerily looking quite similar to the plans that Donald Trump has released of the ballroom. Now we also have the red heifer. They're claiming it was a practice red heifer ceremony. In case you guys don't know, or for anyone who is not aware, the red heifer is required for as sort of like an initiation ceremony what's required is a perfect, unblemished red heifer. Now, they're claiming that they did a practice ceremony and this is not the real ceremony. However, I don't actually believe that, and I think this was the actual ceremony for the red heifer, as it was done as according to biblical guidelines. And so now it just looks like there's just required the building of the temple, since they've sacrificed the perfect, unblemished red heifer. Now, the other thing that I was thinking about is that the mosque that is currently in Israel, which is exactly where they're planning to build the red heifer, I think it will cause too much tension tearing down the mosque, and they don't want to do that. So I think he's decided to build it as the ballroom. So I think because of this peace plan that Donald Trump has put in, I believe that knocking the mosque down would cause too much conflict. So now he's decided to build it next to the White House. The peace plan is also a part of scripture, end times prophecy, a peace plan for the Middle East that Donald Trump currently signed. It actually says in scripture here in Daniel 9 that the Antichrist will confirm a covenant known as a peace deal in the Middle East as well. I also found this interesting that the media was noticing that his planned ballroom is actually a lot larger than normal size, larger luxury ballrooms in the US. So it's actually a lot larger than normal ballrooms would be as well. Now, this scripture is where it gets really interesting, like so interesting, because it says that the Antichrist, so some commentators believe this is talking about the Antichrist, and it's saying that he was given a crown. And it also says that he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquest. So this sort of, I guess, hints that a leader that is bent on like probably war or warfare, getting involved in war and stuff like that. So he was given a crown. So Donald Trump here was given a crown a couple years ago by some Jewish leaders. And then recently, just a couple days ago, he was also given a crown by South Korea, which is literally just a few days ago. So that's where it gets really interesting for me, because now he's actually looking like a pretty solid contender for the Antichrist, being that he's received 2 crowns and he's also signed the peace deal. And he's building a building that looks somewhat like very similar to Solomon's Temple. Also, like what I was saying in the beginning of this video, that the Antichrist will seat himself in the temple of God. This is a scripture to back it up. It says it in 2 Thessalonians that he will oppose and exalt himself over everything that is called God or worship. So he sets himself in God's temple, sets himself up in God's temple. New Living Translation says he will even sit in the temple of God. So it would only make sense that the temple would be close to where the Antichrist is working. So if he was going to sit in there. So yeah, this is starting to get really interesting, guys. Like really, really interesting. There was also in the news a couple of years ago that some of Israel's national treasures and antiquities had ended up in Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate, which also includes a replica of the Ark of the Covenant, which in ancient times used to reside in the temple itself. So